10th lecture on church history. Today will be our final lecture on medieval church history. Chapter 4: The Age of the Decline of the Roman Catholic Church. The period is from 1303 to 1517. Number 1. The Renaissance. The Renaissance took place in the 14th and 15th centuries. This movement, along with the Reformation, was a huge revolution in the history of the world. The Renaissance happened when contact was made with the East. The revival of Greek and Latin classical literature. As a result, people rebelled against and criticized the authorities. Also, individualism became prevalent. Among other things, people sought after the beauty of nature and the pleasures of the world. Number 1. The causes of the Renaissance. In the early 9th century, Charlemagne promoted this kind of literature. Furthermore, many schools affiliated with Christianity emerged. Because of the Crusades, they were able to import the culture of the East. In 1453, when the Eastern Roman Empire fell, the scholars who lived in the Eastern Roman Empire went to Italy and Europe, where they saw a rise in the passion for the study of classical literature. The thing that played the greatest role was the invention of printing. With the invention of printing, people were able to supply more books, and more people became literate. Number 2. The inventions of the Renaissance. Movable type printing, the printer, and the compass were invented. In terms of the continent was discovered. As a result, people were able to add to their experiences. The Renaissance was centered in Italy. There are several reasons why this happened. One of the reasons was the convenient transportation system. Also, there was a large expansion of economic and political freedom. Number 3. Key figures of the Renaissance. Number 1. Alighieri Dante. Dante was born in 1265 and died in 1321. His most well-known books are Divina Commedia and Vita Nuova. 2. Francisco Petrarca. Francisco Petrarca was born in 1304 and died in 1374. He was Rome's poet laureate, and he studied Latin literature and Cicero's literature. Number 3. Giovanni Boccaccio. He was born in 1313 and died in 1375. Boccaccio's most well-known books are Vita di Dante and Decameron. Number 4. Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci was an artist and a scientist. His famous work is The Last Supper. Number 5. Raffaello. His works include Madonna and Child and Deposition of Christ. Number 6. Michelangelo. Michelangelo was born in 1475 and died in 1564. He was a sculptor and an artist. His most famous works are Pieta, The Last Judgment, and David. Number 4. A new revival of religion and morals. In Germany, 17 universities were established over a period of 500 years. An education movement began through John of Wessel, Rudolf Agricola, and the Reformation also happened. In the Netherlands, Erasmus published the New Testament in Greek for the first time. John Colet was born in 1466 and died in 1519. He was a professor at the University of Oxford. Thomas More was born in 1478 and died in 1535. He wrote the book Utopia. Number 5. The effects of the Renaissance. The Renaissance contributed greatly to modern culture. The Bible was published in its original language until the Latin translation of the Bible was considered to be the best translation of the Bible. Books on Bible commentary were published as well. People started to rebel against the systems and the authorities, and individualism saw a revival as well. Number 2, the reformers prior to the Reformation. A. Reformers who reformed doctrine. These reformers claimed that the doctrines of the medieval Roman Catholic Church were wrong and needed to be changed. John Wycliffe and John Huss are two key reformers of doctrine. B. Practical reformers. These reformers started a movement to reform the corruption of church workers of the medieval church and the corruption in the lives of the people. Major figures include Girolamo Savonarola and Peter Waldo. C. Mystical reformers. Mystical reformers, to counter the worldly movement, initiated a mystical reformation. Major figures include Eckhart, Thomas A. Kempis, and John of Wessel. Number 2, Peter Waldo. Peter Waldo was a wealthy merchant of Lyon, France. Invested a sum of money in the translation of the Bible and other Christian documents. In 1177, he sold all his possessions, gave the money to the poor, and began evangelizing. He was inspired by Matthew 19, which prompted him to sell his possessions and evangelize. In 1184, he was excommunicated after being accused of being a heretic. However, his ideas spread widely in Spain, southern Germany, and Italy. He died in Bohemia in 1197. Let us take a look at Waldo's claims that the Bible is the only standard of faith and deeds. He made a great effort to obey the message of the Sermon on the Mount. He did not accept the idea of purgatory or the idea of prayer and sacraments for the dead. In 1215, Pope Innocent III persecuted the claims of the Waldenses, but after Italy was united, the Waldenses became the largest organization in Italy. Number 3, John Wycliffe. John Wycliffe was born in 1324 and died in 1384. After graduating from University of Oxford, he became a professor and a palace pastor. As a delegate of the king, Wycliffe went to France and negotiated with the Pope's delegates. In 1382, he translated the Bible to English. He attacked the Pope's excessive taxation of England and the corruption of high-ranking priests. When this happened, the Pope ordered the arrest of Wycliffe. However, he was protected by the English crown and was safe. When the Synod of London defined Wycliffe as a heretic, he resigned from the university, returned to his hometown, and served as a pastor until his death. The Council of Constance convened from 1414 to 1418. The council condemned Wycliffe's claims and ordered his bones to be burned. Let us look at his theology. He said that the Bible is the only standard for faith. He rejected the idea of indulgences. He also rejected transubstantiation. He said that a papal government is unnecessary. He further criticized the fact that monks lived in celibacy. Number 4, John Huss. John Huss was born in 1415. He was a professor and chancellor at the University of Prague, which is in Prague, the capital of Bohemia. He was inspired by and followed after Wycliffe's spirit of reform. He attacked the papal government for its corruption, and he also disapproved of the selling of indulgences. Because of his words and actions, he was put in danger. He then ran away and wrote De Ecclesia. He was summoned by the Council of Constance, which had condemned Wycliffe. He attended after the emperor promised to him. However, he was imprisoned in a cave. He was interrogated and defined as a heretic. On July 6, 1415, John Huss was burned at the stake. The people of Bohemia were angry about his death, and under the leadership of Jan Žižka, they formed a reform party. Number 3. Babylonian captivity. Number 1. The causes. Pope Bonifacius VIII, who was Pope at the time, and King Philip IV of France were fighting with each other. Because the king was more powerful than the Pope, the king heavily taxed the church. But in 1309, a French person by the name of Clement V became Pope. The papacy was relocated to Avignon, which was on the French border. The popes lived in Avignon for about 70 years, from 1309 to 1377. This is called the Babylonian captivity or Avignon captivity. The Pope cancelled the penalties imposed by the past Pope against the King of France. Number 2. The process. Pope Clement V served as a slave to the King of France. In Avignon, the Pope served as Pope. For this reason, John the 22nd, Benedictus XII, Clement VI, Urbanus VI, and Gregory the 11th stayed in Avignon. However, when Gregory the 11th died, the people said that they should appoint a pope in Italy. The cardinals gathered and elected an Italian as pope, called him Urbanus VI, and the papacy was returned to Rome from Avignon. But Urbanus VI attacked the cardinals for their extravagance and corruption. Then, a majority of the cardinals went to Avignon and elected a new pope, Clement VII. There were 2 popes for a period of 40 years. There was a pope in Rome and a pope in France. The Pope of Rome ruled over Italy Germany, and England. The Pope of France ruled over France and Scotland. Number 3. The results. There was much antagonism between the Pope and the King. Furthermore, the relationship between the Pope of Rome and the Pope of France started to deteriorate. In order to prevent a lack of funds, the popes sold church positions. Thus, Jean de Gerson was Chancellor of the University of Paris. He grieved over the corruption of the church and held a council in Pisa, Italy, in 1409. He then deposed the two popes, Gregory II and Benedict XIII, and appointed Alexander V as the new pope. However, the three popes, the Pope of France, the Pope of Rome, and the new Pope, fought with one another. In 1414, Jean de Gerson deposed all three popes and elected Martin V. The fighting within the church then came to an end. Number 4. The papacy and Number 1. The Council of Pisa. In 1409, Jean de Gerson, concerned about the church's corruption, convened the Council of Pisa. The council deposed the Pope of France and the Pope of Rome and appointed the Archbishop of Milano as Pope, who was given the name Alexander V. However, this resulted in there being 3 popes. Number 2. The Council of Constance. The Council of Constance was a large-scale council where 5,000 theologians and nobles attended. At this council, the 3 were removed from their positions and Martin V was appointed Pope. The Council of Constance is noteworthy because of its punishment of John Huss and John Wycliffe. It decided to burn John Huss at the stake and to unearth the corpse of John Wycliffe and burn his bones. Number 3. The Council of Basel. The Council of Basel began in 1431 and continued until 14 1439. The purpose of the council was to reform the entire church. It condemned the reformers as being heretics and wanted to eradicate them. Was convened to promote peace in Christianity. Up until this time, the Pope was separated and the church was troubled. A movement promoting peace in the church was started. However, the Pope was against this council. 13 months after the council opened, the Pope ordered it to close. But the council claimed that the highest sovereign power lies with the Council of Basel, not with the Pope. For this reason, the council continued even without the Pope. The Council of Basel came up with some resolutions. Let us take a look at the resolutions. They decided to limit the authority of the Pope, and they decided to limit the Pope's authority to forcefully impose taxes. Furthermore, with John Huss' execution, the Reform Party of Bohemia was formed. The council came to an agreement with this party. The agreement said the following things. On Christmas, the believers of Bohemia and Moravia will be given bread and wine. They also resolved to execute those who have sinned. Also, elders and deacons were given the right to preach the Word of God. Additionally, it was decided that church officers would not own possessions. For this reason, the Pope claimed that the council was invalid. Number 4. The Council of Firenze. This council began in 1439 and lasted until 1442. Let us take a look at the council's members. The Pope, who was opposed to the Council of Basel, motioned for this council to convene. There, Italy's church officers, the Emperor of Greece, and the Archbishop of Constantinople participated. It was on the council to discuss the unification of the Church of Rome and the Church of Greece. The council reached a decision on the source of the Holy Spirit. Previously, the Eastern Church did not acknowledge that the Holy Spirit comes from the Son, but this council did acknowledge it. They also talked about purgatory. They acknowledged that the fire of purgatory is both a spiritual fire and a physical fire. Also, they came to the resolution that both bread containing leaven and bread not containing leaven could be used in communion. They also concluded that the Pope is Christ's representative, a teacher, and a ruler. On July 6, 1439, at the Church of Firenze, a joint celebratory worship service was held. This became the underlying reason for the unification of the Eastern Church and Western Church. The Byzantine Empire, on the verge of disappearing after suffering an invasion by the Ottoman Empire of Turkey, wanted to ask the Pope for help. However, cooperation failed. The reason is the Byzantine Emperor, upon returning to his empire, faced opposition by the archbishops of Jerusalem, Antioch, and Alexander. Eventually fell. In 1453, the Islamic Empire captured Constantinople. Then the Byzantine Empire became an Islamic empire. Number 5. The fall of the Byzantine Empire and the Eastern Church. The fall, number 1, the fall of the Byzantine Empire. In 1453, King Muhammad II of Turkey attacked Constantinus II. The Byzantine Empire fought against the attack, but Constantinople fell in 50-something days. The emperor of the Byzantine Empire died in battle. Number 2. The fall of the Byzantine Empire greatly the East Church. Islam had captured the Hagia Sophia Cathedral. Christians could not evangelize, but they were allowed to keep their faith. The Eastern Church kept its doctrine and organization, but it grew weaker. The church's possessions were confiscated and schools fell. Church officers lost their authority and they became subordinate to the Emperor of the Islamic Empire. The nation gave preferential treatment to Muslims while it mistreated Christians. Furthermore, healthy and strong Christian boys were selected, trained, and educated under the Islamic system and served in the military. Worship and life in the Middle Ages. The sermons given by Number 1. Worship. The sermons given by the Mendicant orders and the Augustinians inspired many believers. There also was a revived interest in the Bible. A translated Bible was made, and people developed an interest in the history of the Bible. Catechisms were created and used in spreading the gospel. Hymns were sung together with the common people. Number 2. Sacraments of the Eastern Church. The sacraments of the Eastern Church were almost identical to those of the Western Church. The Eastern had 7 sacraments. Worship of images and worship of relics were prevalent. Number 3. Life. A. In order to secure finances, the church sold indulgences. Religious courts were held to punish those who were against the Pope or against doctrine as heretics. France and Spain had very cruel punishments for heretics. B. The lives of church officers. Some church officers had several wives. Monasteries were financially abundant, which made them into places of dispute. They condemned strict people as being heretics. However, of the common lot, a group of pious people was established. They labored to live self-sufficient lives, studied the Bible, meditated, preached, and educated. This concludes the 10th lecture on church history. Thank you.